The stars looked different from Europa Station. Commander James Reeves stood at the observation deck, watching Jupiter's massive form dominate the view. 5 years had passed since the war ended, but the nightmares still came. He could still hear the screams of dying soldiers, still smell the burning metal of destroyed ships, still feel the weight of every decision that sent good men and women to their deaths. He was supposed to be retired. At 38, he was too young to stop fighting, but too tired to continue. The military had given him this posting as a reward, a quiet job managing cargo logistics at a research station. No combat, no death. Just numbers and schedules and the peaceful silence of space. The door chimed behind him. "Commander Reeves, you have a priority transmission from Earth Command." James turned to see Lieutenant Chun, the station's communications officer. Her face was serious. Priority transmissions were rare. Emergency transmissions were even rarer. This was marked with seals he hadn't seen since the war. "Patch it through to my quarters," James said. 20 minutes later, he was staring at the holographic image of Admiral Kathleen Torres. She looked older than he remembered. The war had aged everyone who survived it. "Commander Reeves, I'll be direct. We need you back." James felt his chest tighten. "Ma'am, with respect, I'm retired from active duty." "My contract." "This isn't about your contract," Torres interrupted. "The Galactic Council has requested you personally for a diplomatic mission to the Zathori homeworld." The name hit him like a physical blow. Zathori. The enemy. The species humanity had fought for 7 bloody years. Tall, powerful beings with 4 arms and crystalline bone structures that could tear through steel. They had nearly destroyed Earth's colonies. Billions had died. "The war is over," James said slowly. "Why would they want me?" Torres's expression softened slightly. "You saved one of their princesses during the Battle of Crimson Nebula. Do you remember?" How could he forget? The battle had been a disaster. The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1. The order came to retreat, to save what ships they could. But James had detected a life signature in a damaged Zathori command vessel. Against orders, he had taken his squad in. They found her in the wreckage, a young Zathori female, her blue skin covered in burns, one of her arms crushed beneath debris. His men had argued. She was the enemy. They should leave her. But James had looked into her 3 eyes and seen terror, pain, and something he recognized, the will to survive. He had ordered his team to extract her. They had barely made it out before the ship exploded. "Princess Yaran," James said quietly. "I remember. She's now one of the chief negotiators for the Zathori Empire. She specifically requested you for this mission. There's a crisis developing, Commander. A faction within the Zathori military wants to restart the war. Princess Yaran believes you can help prevent it." James walked to his window, looking out at the stars again. He had saved an enemy once because it was the right thing to do. That single act had somehow rippled through the war. The Zathori had returned her, and she had spoken to her people about human honor. Some said it was the beginning of the peace talks. What would the mission involve? Travel to the Zathori homeworld. Meet with Princess Yaran. Assess the threat. Report back. Maybe help with some diplomatic negotiations. 2 months, 3 at most. And if I refuse? Torres met his eyes. Then you refuse. You've earned that right, James. You've given enough. But she asked for you. That has to mean something. It meant everything. In Zathori culture, a life debt was sacred. By saving Yaran, James had created a bond that transcended species, politics, and war. If she was calling in that debt, the situation must be desperate. When do I leave? Transport departs from Ganymede Station in 48 hours. I'll have your orders and briefing materials sent over within the hour. The transmission ended. James stood alone in his quarters, feeling the weight of the universe pressing down on him again. He had thought he was done being a soldier. He had thought he could escape the war. But the war, it seemed, was not done with him. The journey to the Zathori homeworld took 3 weeks. James spent the time reviewing intelligence reports and learning what he could about current Zathori politics. The Empire had changed since the peace treaty. Reformers, like Princess Jerem, pushed for cooperation with other species. Traditionalists viewed the peace as surrender and dishonor. The ship that carried him was a joint venture human technology merged with Zathori design. It was a symbol of the fragile peace they had built. James shared the vessel with diplomats, scientists, and a small security detail. Most avoided him. They knew his reputation. The soldier who had killed thousands of Zathori warriors, but also saved their princess. He made people uncomfortable. On the final day of the journey, James stood on the observation deck as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Zathori homeworld materialized before them. It was beautiful. The planet glowed with a soft blue light, its surface covered in crystalline cities that caught and reflected the sun. Massive orbital stations surrounded it, each one a work of art and engineering. The Zathori had built an empire across a dozen worlds, and this was its heart. Commander Reeves were receiving clearance to land. The captain announced over the intercom, "Welcome to Zithar Prime." The descent took an hour. James watched cities pass beneath them, towers of crystal and metal reaching toward the sky, parks filled with strange vegetation, crowds of Zathori going about their lives. From up here, it was hard to believe these people had been trying to kill him just 5 years ago. The ship landed at the Imperial spaceport. James gathered his few belongings and made his way to the exit ramp. His heart was pounding. Somewhere on this world, Princess Jerem was waiting. The female he had saved. The one who had changed everything. The ramp lowered. Bright sunlight flooded in. James took a deep breath and walked forward into the unknown, wondering what waited for him among his former enemies. Wondering if he was walking into salvation or a trap. Wondering if peace was truly possible, or if this was just the calm before another storm. He was about to find out. The Imperial Palace was unlike anything James had ever seen. Towers of living crystal rose into the sky, their surfaces shifting colors with the light. Gardens filled with alien plants surrounded walkways made of polished stone. Everything was precise, elegant, and utterly foreign. James felt very small and very human as he walked through corridors filled with Zathori nobles and officials. His escort was a military officer named Carthan, a scarred veteran who had fought in the war. The Zathori stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 powerful arms and skin the color of deep ocean water. His face was hard, his 3 eyes watching James with barely concealed hostility. "The princess waits in the Garden of Ancestors," Carthan said, his voice like grinding stones. "You will show proper respect, human. She is of royal blood." "I understand," James replied calmly. He had learned long ago not to rise to provocations. Carthan had probably lost friends and family to human weapons. His anger was earned. They walked through a massive archway into an open garden. At its center stood a fountain of liquid crystal, and beside it waited Princess Jerem. James stopped, momentarily stunned. The frightened, injured female he had pulled from the wreckage was gone. In her place stood a being of power and grace. She wore robes of deep purple, marked with symbols of her royal house. Her blue skin was unmarred, all injuries healed. 3 of her 4 arms were folded in a position of formal greeting, while the 4th, the one that had been crushed, bore faint scars that she made no attempt to hide. Their eyes met across the garden. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Jerem moved forward with fluid grace. "Commander James Reeves." "You came, Your Highness," James said. bowing in the human fashion. He was unsure of Zathori protocol. "We are beyond such formalities, you and I," Jaren said. Her voice was melodic, speaking perfect English with only a slight accent. "You saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. That creates a bond deeper than titles." Carthan made a disgusted sound but said nothing. Jaren gestured dismissively. "Leave us, Commander Carthan. I will speak with the human alone." "My lady, I must protest. This is highly irregular. Leave us." The words were soft but carried absolute authority. Carthan's 3 eyes blazed with anger, but he bowed stiffly and departed. When he was gone, Jaren's formal posture relaxed slightly. "You must forgive Carthan. He lost 2 clutch brothers in the war. He does not forget easily." "Neither do I," James said. "I killed a lot of your people, Princess. Saving you doesn't change that." Jaren studied him with her alien gaze. "You are direct. I appreciate this. Please, walk with me. We have much to discuss, and walls have ears in the Imperial Palace." They walked through the garden paths, past sculptures honoring Zathori ancestors. Jaren moved with the deadly grace of a predator, but her manner was thoughtful, even gentle. "Do you know why the war ended, Commander?" "The Battle of Titan. Both sides exhausted. The peace treaty. True, but incomplete. The war ended because I returned to my people and told them what you did. A human commander, in the midst of battle, risked everything to save an enemy. You did not torture me for information. You did not use me as a hostage. You simply saved me because it was right." Jaren paused at a fountain, trailing one hand through the liquid crystal. "My people respect strength above all. But that day, you showed us something stronger than weapons. You showed us honor, compassion, the ability to see the person, not just the enemy. It changed minds. It changed my mind." James felt uncomfortable with the praise. "I did what anyone decent would do." "No," Jaren said firmly. "You did what few would dare. And now I must ask you to do so again." She led him to a private alcove, checking to ensure they were truly alone. Then she activated a small device that created a sphere of silence around them. "What I tell you now is dangerous knowledge. There is a faction within our military called the Purifiers. They believe the peace treaty was a mistake, a dishonor to our warrior ancestors. They think we should have fought to the last, Zathori, rather than negotiate with lesser species." James's soldier instincts kicked in. "How large is this faction?" "Perhaps 20% of our military leadership. But they are well-placed and well-armed. More concerning, they have support among some noble houses. Houses that profit from war. What are they planning?" Jaren's 3 eyes met his, and James saw genuine fear there. "We have intercepted communications suggesting an attack on a human colony. New Harmony in the Deneb sector. They believe if they can restart hostilities, the moderates will be forced to support a full war effort." "New Harmony has 2 million people," James said, his voice hard. "Civilians, families. I know. That is why I asked for you. I need someone I can trust absolutely. Someone who knows war but loves peace. Someone who can help me expose this conspiracy before it is too late." James looked at the alien princess, remembering the terrified female he had pulled from wreckage. "What do you need from me?" "The Purifiers have a base in the contested zone, where human and Zathori space overlap. We need proof of their plans, evidence that cannot be denied. I cannot send Zathori troops without alerting the conspirators. But a small team, mixed human and Zathori, led by you. You want me to lead a mission into enemy territory to gather intelligence. I want you to help me prevent another war, Commander. I want you to save millions of lives, both human and Zathori." James thought about Europa Station, about his quiet retirement, about the peace he had found. Then he thought about 2 million people on New Harmony who did not know they were being targeted. He thought about all the soldiers who had died to win the peace. I'll need a team. People I can trust. Jaren's expression showed relief. I have loyal HFY warriors who believe in peace. And your government has authorized a Marine unit to be placed under your command. When do we leave? Tomorrow. But tonight, there is a reception in your honor. The council wishes to meet the human who saved me. Many will welcome you. Others. She gestured expressively with her 4 arms. Will wish you dead. You must be careful. James Reeves. Not all threats come from the purifiers. That evening, James dressed in his formal military uniform and entered the grand reception hall. It was filled with HFY nobility, diplomats from a dozen species, and human representatives. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across the crowd. James moved through the room, acutely aware of the stares. Some HFY nodded respectfully. Others glared with open hatred. He recognized some faces from intelligence briefings, moderates who supported peace, hardliners who did not. Near the center of the room, he spotted an elderly HFY in military dress. The being wore the insignia of a war marshal, the highest military rank in the empire. Their eyes locked, and James saw cold calculation there. Jaren appeared at his elbow. That is War Marshal Kazan. He commands the 7th Fleet. He is also my uncle, my father's clutch brother. Is he part of the conspiracy? I do not know. But be wary of him. He has never forgiven the peace treaty. The War Marshal approached them, moving with the controlled power of a seasoned warrior. Mies, and the famous Commander Reeves, the human who changed the war with one act of mercy. War Marshal, James said carefully. Tell me, human, do you believe mercy is strength or weakness? It was a test. James chose his words carefully. Mercy without strength is helpless. Strength without mercy is cruelty. Neither alone makes a leader worth following. Kazan's 3 eyes narrowed. Interesting words from a warrior who killed 3,000 of my people at the Battle of Proxima. War is not murder, Marshal. It is tragedy. I grieve every life lost on both sides. Do you? Or do you simply say what we wish to hear? Kazan leaned closer. Peace is fragile, Commander. Like crystal, it can shatter with one sharp blow. I wonder what would happen if someone struck it hard enough. Before James could respond, the War Marshal turned and walked away, leaving the implied threat hanging in the air. Jaren touched his arm gently. He knows, she whispered. Or suspects. We must move quickly. James nodded, watching the crowd and feeling the weight of another war pressing down on him. Tomorrow, he would take a team into danger. Tonight, he stood among former enemies, trying to preserve a peace that felt as fragile as a sorry crystal. The mission had begun. The transport ship cut through the darkness of space, carrying James and his team toward the contested zone. It was a small vessel designed to avoid detection. Inside were 8 humans and a HFY, an uneasy mix of former enemies now bound together by a common purpose. James stood in the cargo bay, watching his team prepare. The human Marines were veterans, handpicked from units that had fought alongside him in the war. Sergeant Maria Santos checked her rifle for the 3rd time. Corporal Chan worked on communication equipment. Private Yuki Tanaka, their youngest member, looked nervous but determined. The HFY warriors were equally impressive. Led by Commander Velsha, they moved with efficient grace, checking weapons and armor. Velsha was younger than most of the HFY officers, with bright green skin and keen intelligence in her 3 eyes. She had lost a clutch sister in the war, but believed in the peace. Jaren entered the bay, now dressed in combat armor rather than royal robes. She looked every bit the warrior princess. We are approaching the contested zone, she announced. "Beyond this point, we cannot rely on backup. If we are discovered, both our governments will deny knowledge of this mission." James nodded. "Everyone clear on the objective?" "Get into the Purifier base," Santos said. "Find evidence of the planned attack. Get out alive." "Simple in theory," James said with a slight smile. "Hard in practice. Remember, we are not here to fight unless absolutely necessary. Stealth is our priority." The ship dropped them on a barren moon orbiting a dead planet. According to intelligence, the Purifier base was hidden in a canyon system on the planet's surface. They would need to take a shuttle down and approach on foot. The descent was tense. Every sensor scan could reveal them. Every minute felt like an hour. But they reached the surface undetected and landed in a crater 5 kilometers from the canyon. James gathered the team. "Santos, you and Velsha take point. Chun and Karvik on communications. Everyone else, standard formation. We move in pairs, human and Zathori together. Watch each other's backs." It was a calculated decision. Pairing former enemies forced them to trust each other. Humans were smaller and more agile, good at finding cover. Zathori were stronger and more durable, good at protecting partners. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. They moved across the barren landscape under the light of distant stars. The planet had no atmosphere, so they traveled in environmental suits, communicating through encrypted channels. James walked alongside Jaren. Their pace matched despite their different physiology. "You have done this before," Jaren observed. "Lead mixed teams. During the war, sometimes prisoners needed to be escorted through dangerous territory. I learned that Zathori and humans can work together when they have to. Most of my people would be surprised to hear this. We were taught that humans were weak, fragile, inferior." James smiled behind his helmet. "And we were taught that Zathori were mindless brutes who only understood violence. War makes us see each other as less than we are. It is easier to kill an enemy if you believe they are not truly alive, not truly aware." They reached the canyon edge and looked down. Below them, carved into the rock, was the Purifier base. It was well hidden, with defensive positions and sensor arrays. Getting in would be nearly impossible. Getting in undetected seemed insane. "Ideas?" James asked his team. Velsha studied the layout. "There is a ventilation shaft on the western side. Too small for my people, but your humans could fit." "We send the humans in alone?" Karvik growled. "That is foolish." "No," James said. "We create a distraction. Zathori team approaches from the east, making enough noise to draw attention. Human team infiltrates through the shaft. Once we're inside, we can open a door for you." Jaren nodded. "It could work. But if you are caught inside before we can reach you, then we improvise. We're good at that." They split up. James led Santos, Chen, and Tanaka toward the ventilation shaft, while Jaren took the Zathori team east. The plan was simple: wait for the distraction, then move fast. The ventilation shaft was exactly as narrow as intelligence suggested. James went first, crawling through the metal tube in near darkness. Behind him, he could hear Santos breathing steadily, keeping calm. Good soldiers learned to control fear. They emerged in a storage room filled with weapons and supplies. James's heart sank. These were not defensive weapons. These were invasion arms, enough firepower to destroy a small colony. "Chun, start recording everything. We need evidence." Chun activated his camera implants, capturing data. Meanwhile, Santos and Tanaka kept watch. James moved deeper into the base, looking for the command center. He found it 3 levels down a room filled with tactical displays and communication equipment. And there, on the main screen, were the plans. Attack coordinates for New Harmony, troop movements, timetables, everything they needed to prove the conspiracy. Chun, get all of this. Every byte. On it, Commander. Then alarms screamed to life. Contact! Santa shouted. They know we're here. Purifier soldiers poured into the corridor. James and his team fell back, firing to cover Chun as he finished downloading data. The narrow corridors worked in the humans' favor. The larger Zathori soldiers had trouble maneuvering. Jaren, we're compromised. James shouted into his comm. Need backup now. We are coming. Hold position. But holding position meant standing and fighting. The Purifiers had numbers on their side. James's team retreated through the base, trading shots with their pursuers. Tanaka took a hit to the shoulder, but kept moving. Santa's rifle overheated, forcing her to switch to her sidearm. They reached a junction point just as Jaren's team burst through the eastern entrance. The Zathori warriors crashed into the Purifier soldiers like a living avalanche. Velsha fought with all four arms, using a blade staff that hummed with energy. Jaren moved like liquid death, protecting the human soldiers with her own body. Fall back together. James ordered. Fighting retreat. They moved as one unit now, humans and Zathori working in perfect coordination. The humans covered the Zathori's blind spots. The Zathori used their strength to clear paths. It was beautiful and terrible to watch. They fought their way to the surface, leaving wounded Purifiers behind. But more enemies were coming. James saw the tactical situation clearly. They could not fight through the entire base. Velsha, you and the Zathori hold this position. Humans were going for the shuttle. No, Jaren said. We do not leave wounded behind. It is against our honor code. James saw that Karvik had taken a bad hit. The warrior was bleeding green blood, barely conscious. A human might have left him to save the mission. But James had learned something during the war honor mattered. Trust mattered. If they abandoned the Zathori now, the alliance would shatter. Santas-chun, help me with Karvik. Tanaka, cover us. Your Highness, can you buy us time? Jaren's three eyes blazed with something that might have been respect. For you, Commander, I will buy you hours. She and the others Story formed a defensive line. James and his Marines carried Karvik, the massive warrior's weight shared between them. They moved as fast as they could, but it was not fast enough. The Purifiers were gaining. Then something unexpected happened. Karvik, barely conscious, spoke in broken English. Leave me. Save mission. Not happening, James said. Humans don't leave people behind. Not anymore. Why? Karvik gasped. I am your enemy. I wish you dead. James looked at the dying warrior. You might be my enemy, but you're fighting for peace. That makes us brothers. They reached the shuttle with Purifiers on their heels. Jaren and her team fell back, laying down covering fire. Everyone piled into the shuttle, wounded and exhausted. The engines roared to life. Weapons fire pinged off the hull as they lifted off. The shuttle climbed toward space, shaking from impacts. Chun worked frantically to keep the shields stable. Santa supplied emergency medical gel to Tanaka's wound and Karvik's injury. They broke atmosphere just as their shields failed. But they were free, burning hard for the transport ship. Inside the shuttle, James looked around at his team. Humans and Zathori, bleeding together, exhausted together. They had the evidence. They had survived. And something else had happened in that base. They had become a team. Jaren met his eyes across the shuttle bay. No words were needed. They both knew what they had accomplished. And they both knew the hardest part was still ahead. They had proof of the conspiracy. Now they had to expose it before the Purifiers could strike. The journey back to Zadar Prime took 3 days. 3 days during which James watched the data Chun had stolen and felt his blood turn cold. The Purifier plans were worse than they had imagined. The attack on New Harmony was not just meant to restart the war. It was designed to provoke humanity into a response so violent that the moderate Zathori would have no choice but to support total warfare. The Purifiers had a doomsday weapon hidden in the asteroid belt near New Harmony. When the colony was attacked, human forces would retaliate. Then the weapon would activate, destroying the human fleet and making it look like the Zathori had used Forbidden's planet-killing technology. Both sides would be forced into a war of extinction. Millions will die, Jaren said quietly, watching the data with him in the ship's briefing room. On both sides. And once it starts, it will not stop until one species is destroyed. James rubbed his tired eyes. Karvik was stable, but would need extensive treatment. Tanaka was recovering, but the cost of this information had been high. 2 of Velsh's warriors had not survived the escape. Their bodies were being returned to their families. We need to take this to the Galactic Council, immediately. Agreed. But there is a problem. Jaren brought up a new file. I have been investigating the conspiracy's leadership. James, I need you to see this. The file showed communication logs, financial records, and command structures. At the top of the pyramid was a name James recognized. War Marshal Kazen, Jaren's uncle. He is the leader, Jaren said, her voice carefully controlled. The head of the entire Purifier movement. He has been planning this since before the peace treaty was signed. James studied her face, trying to read alien expressions he was only beginning to understand. I'm sorry. Why do you apologize? You did not create this situation. Because he's your family. That has to hurt. Jaren was quiet for a long moment. In Zathori culture, honor comes before blood. But knowing this truth and feeling it are different things. My uncle taught me to fight. He told me stories of our ancestors. I loved him. What will you do? What I must. Expose him. Stop him. Even if it destroys my family's reputation. The ship emerged from faster-than-light travel near the Galactic Council station, a massive structure that served as neutral ground for all species. But as they approached, alarms began sounding. Commander, we're being hailed by a Zathori Imperial battlecruiser, the ship's captain announced. They're ordering us to stand down and prepare to be boarded. James rushed to the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see the massive warship moving to intercept them. It bore the insignia of the 7th Fleet, Kazen's fleet. He knows, Jaren said. Someone told him we have evidence. Can we outrun them? Not in this transport. And if we try to flee, they will destroy us. James made a decision. Captain, send all the data we collected to both Earth Command and the Galactic Council. Tight beam transmission, maximum encryption. Do it now. That will take 3 minutes, Commander. Then we buy 3 minutes. James opened a communication channel to the battlecruiser. This is Commander James Reeves of Earth Defense. We are on a diplomatic mission under Galactic Council protection. By what authority do you detain us? The screen flickered, showing War Marshal Kazen. His 3 eyes were cold and hard. By the authority of the Zathori Imperial Command. You have stolen classified military information and committed acts of war against Zathori installations. You will surrender immediately. The installation we entered was operated by the Purifiers, a terrorist organization planning to attack a human colony. We have evidence. You have lies and fabrications, Kazen interrupted. Evidence that can be easily manufactured. I am disappointed, niece. I expected better from you than to be deceived by human propaganda. Jaren stepped forward. Uncle, I have seen the data. I know about the doomsday weapon. I know about the planned attack on New Harmony. This must stop. What must stop is this foolish peace, We were winning the war before your capture, and your weak words turned our people soft. The Zethori Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We conquered them. Data transmission complete, the captain whispered. James allowed himself a small smile. War Marshal, the evidence is already on its way to the Galactic Council. You can destroy this ship, but you cannot stop the truth. Kazen's expression darkened. Then you have signed your death warrant, human. The battlecruiser's weapons powered up. James could see death coming, massive plasma cannons capable of vaporizing their small ship. His team gathered on the bridge, preparing for the end. Then something unexpected happened. 3 more ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Earth defense vessels, responding to the distress beacon. They positioned themselves between the transport and the battlecruiser. This is Captain Anderson of the EDS Valiant. War Marshal, if you fire on that transport, you will start a war with Earth. Stand down. The 2 fleets faced each other, weapons hot, fingers on triggers. One wrong move and the peace would shatter. This was exactly what the Purifiers wanted. James opened a channel directly to Kazen. Marshal, we both know that if this turns into a shooting war right now, the Purifiers win. Is that what you want? To be manipulated into destroying everything? You know nothing of what I want, human. I know you love your people. I know you want the Zethori Empire to survive and thrive. This weapon you've built, this attack you've planned, it will not make your people strong. It will make them extinct. Because if you force humanity into a war of survival, we will not stop until one of us is gone. Is that the future you want for your niece? For your species? Kazen was silent. The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Finally, Jaren spoke. Uncle, I offer you a choice. Stand down now. Come with me to the Galactic Council. Face justice with honor. Or continue this path and be remembered as the one who destroyed our people. You asked me to betray everything I believe in. I ask you to save everything you love. There's a difference. For a long moment, Kazen stared at his niece. James could see the war happening inside the old warrior duty versus honor, pride versus wisdom. Then the War Marshal's face hardened. You have become weak, niece, corrupted by human ideas. I will not surrender, and I will not allow you to reach the council. The communication cut off. The battlecruiser's weapons armed. But before anyone could fire, something else happened. Ships began dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around them. Zethori ships. Dozens of them. Ships from fleets loyal to the peace, commanded by officers who believed in Jarrah's vision. Velsha appeared on the communication screen from her own ship. War Marshal Kazen, this is Commander Velsha of the 7th Honor Guard. I am placing you under arrest for conspiracy against the Empire and crimes. Against peace. Stand down your weapons. Kazen's 3 eyes blazed with rage. You dare? I am your commanding officer. You are a traitor who puts personal honor above the survival of our species. That ends now. The standoff continued. James counted ships on both sides. It was close to even. If this turned into a battle, thousands would die, and the Purifiers would have their war. Then Kazen did something that shocked everyone. He laughed. It was a bitter, terrible sound. You think you have won. You think capturing me stops this. But the plan is already in motion. The weapon is active. The attack on New Harmony begins in 6 hours. And you, dear niece, cannot stop it from here. He cut the communication. A moment later, the battlecruiser opened a faster-than-light portal and jumped away, vanishing into the void. James felt his stomach drop. 6 hours. They had 6 hours to warn New Harmony, to stop the attack, to prevent the weapon from activating. Jaren turned to him, her face showing the same fear he felt. The weapon control center is on an asteroid station near New Harmony. It will be heavily defended. We need a team to infiltrate it and shut it down. That's on the other side of Zathori space, Captain Anderson said. We can't get there in time. I can, Jaren said. My personal ship is the fastest in the Empire. It can make the journey in 4 hours. That leaves 2 hours to infiltrate a defended station, fight through Purifier forces, and disable a doomsday weapon. James looked at his exhausted team. They had just fought through one impossible mission. Now they were facing another. But there was no choice. There was never a choice when millions of lives hung in the balance. Then we go, James said simply. We go now, we go fast, and we do not fail. Jaren nodded. Transfer to my ship. Bring only your best warriors. This will be the hardest fight of our lives. As James gathered his team, he thought about how he had ended up here. A retired commander pulled back into service. A soldier trying to preserve a peace he had fought so hard to win. A human among aliens, fighting for a future neither species was sure they wanted. But as he looked at Jaren, at Velsha, at the Zathori who had chosen peace over war, he felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Jaren's personal ship was a masterpiece of Zathori engineering. Sleek, fast, and armed with enough firepower to fight a small war. They made the journey in 3 hours and 47 minutes, arriving at the edge of the New Harmony system with 30 minutes to spare before the scheduled attack. James stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display. The doomsday weapon was hidden in an asteroid station, designated Mining Facility Theta 7. Intelligence showed 40 Purifier soldiers defending it, along with automated defense systems. We cannot simply destroy the station, Jaren explained. The weapon is designed to activate if it detects an attack. We must infiltrate, disable it manually, then prevent the attack on the colony. A 2-part mission with impossible odds and no backup. James smiled grimly. Feels like old times. His team had been reduced to the essential fighters. Santos, Chun, and Tanaka from the human side. Velsha and 3 of her best warriors from the Zathori. And Jaren herself, who refused to stay behind. Your Highness, if you are captured or killed, the peace movement loses its leader, Velsha argued. If we fail here, there will be no peace movement. There will be no peace. I go. They approached the asteroid station using stealth technology, drifting in like debris. The station was built into the asteroid itself, honeycombed with tunnels and chambers. Getting in would be hard. Getting out alive seemed impossible. We split into 2 teams, James said. Team 1, led by me and Jaren, goes for the weapon control center. Team 2, led by Santos and Velsha, secures the main reactor. If we cannot disable the weapon, we destroy the station's power core. That should prevent activation. It will also kill everyone inside, Velsha noted. Better 10 of us than 2 million colonists. They docked at a maintenance port, cutting through the airlocks with plasma torches. Alarms immediately screamed to life. Stealth was abandoned. Now it was a race. James led his team through narrow corridors, fighting Purifier soldiers at every turn. The defenders were fanatics, willing to die for their cause. But James's team fought with something stronger than fanaticism. They fought for hope. Chun used his technical skills to bypass security doors. Tanaka, despite her injury, provided covering fire with deadly accuracy. And Jaren moved through the station like an avenging angel, her 4 arms wielding weapons with terrifying grace. They fought deeper into the asteroid, leaving a trail of unconscious and wounded purifiers. James tried to minimize casualties. These were still Zathori, still people who believed they were doing the right thing. Team 2, status? James called into his comm. We are pinned down near the reactor, Santos replied. Her voice strained over the sound of weapons fire. Heavy resistance. We need time. Copy that. We will keep them busy. James's team reached the weapon control center and found it sealed behind a massive blast door. Chun worked on the locking mechanism while James and Jaren held the corridor against waves of defenders. I am sorry, Jaren said between shots. I brought you into this. Into danger. Into my people's madness. Your people's madness saved my life once, James replied, dropping an attacker with a stun round. At the Battle of Crimson Nebula, your warriors could have killed me 12 times. But they were honorable. They fought with rules. That is why I could respect them. That is why peace was possible. You see the best in us, even when we show you the worst. Someone once told me that seeing the person instead of the enemy changes everything. I think it was a wise princess. The blast door opened. They rushed inside to find the control center, a room filled with holographic displays, and the massive core of the Doomsday weapon itself. It pulsed with energy, counting down to activation. They had 8 minutes. James ran to the main console while Jaren secured the door. Chun, I need you here. This is beyond my technical knowledge. Chun slid into the control seat, his fingers flying over the alien interface. This is insane. The weapon is designed to be fail-safe. Every shutdown protocol I try activates a backup system. Can you disable it? Not in 8 minutes. Not in 8 hours. Maybe not at all. James felt ice in his chest. They had come so far, fought so hard, and it was not enough. Then Jaren spoke. There is one way. The weapon requires a genetic key from its creator to fully activate. It also requires the same key to perform an emergency shutdown. Kazan's genetic signature, James understood. We do not have that. No, but I am his blood relation. My genetic code is similar enough that the weapon might accept it. Might. And if it doesn't accept it, then the weapon activates anyway, and we die 6 minutes sooner than planned. James looked at the princess. At the brave, fierce, honorable being who had risked everything for peace. He thought about all the paths that had led them to this moment. All the choices that mattered. Do it. Jaren approached the weapon's core. It required a physical interface, a crystal spike that would sample her genetic material directly. She placed one of her 4 hands on it, and the spike pierced her palm. Green blood flowed into the system. The weapon's countdown stopped. For 1 heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the display turned red. Genetic key rejected. Activating weapon in 60 seconds. No. Jaren tried again, placing another hand on the spike. Accept my authorization. I am of the royal bloodline. Genetic key insufficient. Activating weapon in 45 seconds. James made a decision. He stepped forward and placed his own hand on the spike beside Jaren's. The crystal pierced his palm, and his blood mixed with hers in the system. What are you doing? Jaren asked. Something crazy. Something human. James looked at the display, watching their genetic codes merge in the weapon's analysis. We saved each other. Our blood mixed on the battlefield 5 years ago when I pulled you from that wreckage. Maybe the weapon will see us as one entity. One key. That is not how genetics work. I know. But Zathori technology is partly biological. It responds to intent, to will. Your people designed it that way. So I am willing it to work. The countdown continued. 30 seconds. 20. 10. The display flickered. Their mixed genetic codes swirled together in the analysis. The weapon was confused, trying to process something it was never designed to encounter, the combined genetic signature of 2 species that should be enemies. 5 seconds. 3. The display turned green. Genetic key accepted. Hybrid authorization recognized. Emergency shutdown initiated. The weapon's energy core began to power down. The countdown stopped. The threat to New Harmony vanished like smoke. James and Jaren collapsed against each other, exhausted and bleeding. Chun whooped with joy. Then Santis's voice came over the comm. Team 1. The purifiers are pulling back. Some kind of emergency signal went out. They are abandoning the station. James understood. With the weapon disabled, the purifier's entire plan had failed. Without the doomsday weapon to force an escalation, their attack on New Harmony would be just another act of terrorism, easily condemned. Their leadership was likely fleeing before they could be captured. Let them go, James said. We have bigger problems. Because the weapon might be disabled, but the main purifier fleet was still out there. And War Marshal Kazan would not give up easily. They evacuated the station and returned to Jara's ship, just as Zathori Imperial forces arrived, led by Velsh's fleet. But scanning the area, James saw something that made his heart sink. Kazan's battlecruiser, along with a dozen other purifier ships, was approaching New Harmony from the opposite vector. Without the doomsday weapon, they were going to attack the colony directly. We must warn the colony, Jaren said. They have orbital defenses, but not enough to stop a fleet this size. Wait. James studied the tactical display, his strategic mind working through possibilities. Kazan knows the weapon is disabled. He knows his plan has failed. But he is attacking anyway. Why? Because he is desperate. Because he has nothing left to lose. Or because he wants something else. James opened a communication channel directly to the battlecruiser. War Marshal Kazan, this is Commander James Reeves. The weapon is disabled. Your conspiracy is exposed. The Galactic Council has your communications, your plans, everything. It is over. Kazan's face appeared on the screen. He looked older now, tired. Nothing is over while I still breathe. I will not let my people become weak. I will not let them forget what it means to be Zathori. By killing civilians? By murdering innocents? That does not make you strong. That makes you a monster. What would you know of strength, human? Your species crawls across the galaxy like insects, building fragile colonies, trusting in peace that can shatter at any moment. We are warriors. We are conquerors. That is our nature. Jaren moved beside James, speaking directly to her uncle. Uncle, you taught me that true strength is protecting those weaker than yourself. You taught me that honor is doing the right thing even when it is difficult. You taught me to be Zathori. This is not what you taught me. I taught you lies, child. Lies that made our people soft. No, you taught me truth. And then you forgot it. Kazan's expression twisted. I have failed in everything. Failed to win the war. Failed to prevent the peace. Failed to restart the conflict. What is left for me? James understood then. Kazan was not attacking to win. He was attacking to die. To go out in a blaze of glory rather than face the shame of defeat.